wheels rule the roadways these days, bringing envy to the eyes of all who see them pass by. Their pipes roar as they throttle up. They draw you in with their chrome charisma. Their custom paint job is a sight to remember. Of all the motorcycles on the road, there are no bikes quite like the customs at Big Bear Choppers. But it's not just the bikes that make this the ultimate chopper shop, it's the story behind it. It's a shop with soul, a garage filled with gearheads, and a showroom of some of the most sensational bikes ever to be built. But it wasn't always the glory days.
We had nothing, and it's, so cliche, but we had just a couple of broken down cars and enough money for our first month's rent. So that's where we were at. So we were really, we believed in our product.
They went from a one-man crew to a 100-man operation. And so we headed to Big Bear to see how a chopper shop in this small mountain town became a major stop in the world of motorcycles. We're going behind the name of Big Bear Choppers.
Huge dream of mine is to have a large corporation, not to build bikes, do burnouts and drink beer and woohoo. I mean, that is nothing for me. What gets me excited is building a real corporation that's respected by its consumers and the other competitors in the industry, by my peers. That's what excites me. That's what drives me to do what we're doing.
Kevin Alsop is already a respected motorcycle man in his industry, in his shop, and on the road.
These are custom motorcycles, but they're production motorcycles. You can ride them from here to Sturgis and back, and they're safe, quality motorcycles.
Basically, these bikes are custom models made for the masses. I guess you could say they're the flair of Big Bear.
We're producing motorcycles that have a lot of styling, tremendous amount of styling. We're really pushing left field as far as being radical, I guess, or design. Not in safety, but in the look of the vehicle. I mean, because our vehicles ride just as nice as any other OE vehicle, and all the components are of the highest quality.
Kevin built Big Bear Choppers into a premier showroom, drawing in those looking for a bike with a little something special, something to make them stand apart from all the other chrome on the road. But it wasn't always blue skies over Big Bear.
It was a challenge. It's scary as hell because you're dealing with constantly with the thoughts of failure because you're not sure if this is the right thing to do or not. But once you get the right people on board and then everything starts falling in place, it's been a slow process of the last 6 years, one brick at a time. We are earning our stripes, and in earning your stripes, it takes time, and it's one building block at a time. It doesn't happen overnight.
When I have to look back and think, how did we make it to this point? I think people, like I said, we were average people. We didn't, come from money.
Like Kevin said, one block at a time and one bike at a time. Today, Big Bear Choppers rolls out around 1,000 bikes each year. That's a few bikes above a typical custom shop that may put out around, 10 or so. But with their team of top-notch designers, engineers, and mechanics, the operation behind Big Bear Choppers runs like a well-oiled machine.
The only way to have a great product is to have a great company. The only way to have a great company is have great people in it. It's that simple.
When we return, we'll go behind the name of Big Bear Choppers to hear how it all began. Plus, we'll take a stroll through the shop to see what goes into making one of the world's baddest custom bikes.
We spend thousands and thousands of hours just on the process, not actually making the parts. I mean, we spend thousands of hours making the parts, but we spend just as much time, man-hours, and expensive engineers to figure out the process and the repeatability so the product is of a high quality. It's a lot of work.
It's all coming up when Behind the Name continues.
Kevin's the American dream. He started out, you know, a one-man shop going week to week, and, you know, in just a few years blew up to one of the biggest in the world.
I'm in awe at what he's done with these motorcycles, you know, because it's incredible, it's amazing. And they're beautiful too, they're beautiful motorcycles.
Behind the name, headed up to the mountains of Big Bear, California to take a look at a chopper shop that cuts to the chrome of every motorcycle maniac on the road.
Chrome don't get you home, but chrome is cool.
Big Bear Choppers is a custom shop with the magnitude of a big-time company. They take one-off ideas and produce them for the masses. The result? A lineup of bikes with a flair for the extraordinaire.
They can't be beat. I mean, the style of these compared to any other bike, I don't think you can find a bike that has the look that these bikes have. And it's just the creativity and the style in these bikes is unmatched.
Behind the style is a shop with an old soul. And it all began with Kevin Alsop as he built his skills working on antique motorcycles.
I really started working professionally here in the States 20 years ago, working on antique motorcycles and building the really old stuff, you know, like JD, 29 JDs, flatheads, knuckleheads, panheads.
Kevin's antique experience taught him the fundamentals of motorcycle mechanics. In time, he ventured off on his own when he had a great idea.
I was a one-man shop, and I was repairing motorcycles, and there was a lull in the economy, and I thought for me to get more business, the best thing for me to do is sell a low-end kit that people can actually afford.
Kevin's low-end kit came with high demand. Together with his wife Mona, the Alsops invested themselves in the business. They put in their money, their time, their heart and soul, and in time, they transformed his one-man repair shop into a custom production company.
Kevin's a motor guy. He's a diesel mechanic by trade, so he likes the motors. He can tear down a motor, rebuild a motor, and a lot of builders, they can't do that anymore. They're just buying motors and putting them in motorcycles. But actually the mechanics and how a motor runs, I think that's what excites him about motorcycles.
Kevin went to work on the bikes, and Mona on creating an image that has branded Big Bear Choppers as a major player in the motorcycle circuit.
It's overtaken our whole life. We would just get people off, you know, help, you know, can you help me? We still look at it now and, you know, we're amazed at what it is, but it's a machine, you know, I mean, it's a big animal and it's charging down the road and, you know, we're still just trying to catch up with it.
It hasn't been an easy path. From the beginning, the Alsops were on their own. Even the bank wouldn't give them a loan.
Everything that we bought early on, we bought ourselves. The banks wouldn't touch us. So, you know, if we made $20 here, we'd have to put it into this. If we made $100 here, we'd, you know, put into a new machine. Put, you know, just anything we can do. People used to call and say, I'm going to send you guys $10,000 for a deposit on a bike. How do I know that, you know, you're going to still be in business? And I would have to sell myself and Kevin, because how do you convince somebody to send you 10 grand and that you're not going to go out of business? Because that's happened to a lot of people and a lot of companies.
Their clients had more than a little faith in what was going on up in Big Bear. Building a Big Bear chopper is a streamlined process that enables the boys to build bike after bike, catering to the clients who dream of the extreme. And it all begins with a few sketches in Keith Garcia's big book of ideas.
Some say I draw pictures, some say I make their life hard. My main job is to make sure the bikes meet a certain aesthetic and that they function like they should. I start off, you know, with just basic sketches and sketch some things out. I'll work with computer modelers. Hey Kevin, what do you think of this? You know, yeah, that's cool. Let's go with that.
Some of the designs are pretty radical, and that's something that's encouraged at Big Bear.
The resistance isn't there. Like, oh, whoa, no one's ever done that. It's like, yeah, no one's ever done that. Why not? So look into why not. If there's not a legitimate reason or a good reason, we'll try it, see what happens. And hopefully they like it, and it's been successful for the company so far.
I think that's where it's driven from, that you want to do something dangerous because you want to be excited, because you don't want to be, you're sick and tired of the status quo, so you want to do something that's cool.
One of the big things the Big Bear Choppers let you know a Big Bear Chopper is the aggressiveness of it. When you look at most of the bikes, when you look at them, you either think the vehicle or the person on it could be someone that you might not want to mess with. There's a sense of danger and an aggressive style. long and low, really raked out, very aggressive.
One-of-a-kind design matched by top-of-the-line mechanics.
It's a very serious business, you know. Motorcycles are inherently dangerous. They've got to be built to absolute specifications and with quality. The bottom line is this: if I was to ask you to build a motorcycle from front to back, there's a lot of things to be done, and that's very difficult because there's too many things for you to remember. But if I showed you how to just install a wheel only and trained you to do it, you would do every wheel perfect. So that's what we do. We break it down so that we have one person, all he does is install the engine and transmission. The next guy, all he does is install the wiring harness. The next guy, all he does is install another part of the vehicle.
Stay with us. When we come back, we're rolling down the production line to see just what it takes to build a Big Bear chopper when Behind the Name continues. The bikes at Big Bear Choppers have created quite a ruckus in the motorcycle circuit, bringing in bad boy bikers and a long list of clients. And as fast as they can make them, they roll them out the door.
From start to finish, about 3 weeks. We have about, I think, a 12-week lead time on orders right now. But from start to finish, probably between 3 or 4 weeks to get a bike from raw tubing to a painted showroom bike.
These bikes ride down the assembly line with nearly 100 pairs of hands helping put them together.
The build process to manufacture motorcycles is a complicated one in the respects that you've got to get everybody that's in the corporation has to be on the same page. And again, that is just like herding cats. You've got to get everybody synchronized swimming to make the product and the process correct so the product comes out right.
The infrastructure here at Big Bear Choppers is intact. Kevin has spent years streamlining the process, making it run like a well-oiled machine.
That is something that very few people have a grasp on, even the public, and how much infrastructure goes into a corporation to actually build a production vehicle is just out of this world. It's incredible. We spend thousands and thousands of hours just on the process. The build process and streamlining production is really a lot of small actions synchronized together and following engineering drawings and processes that have been laid out. And then the managers holding those processes to exactly what needs to be done.
Nearly all the parts on a Big Bear bike are produced in-house. Everything from the swing arms to the oil tanks, the gas tanks to the handlebars. Everything but the engine and a few other specialty pieces. But they're ordered based on Big Bear's specifications for ratios, cams, balancing factors, and, well, all the other engine specs that I don't know.
Everything is made in-house, and from a quality standpoint, we can't have it any other way. That way we can ensure the quality. Everything gets checked, double-checked. Everything is done by us, so we know it's done right.
And it's done right, beginning with the exacting standards of the laser cutter.
This machine is about $500,000.
This machine cuts with precision, making sure each part that goes on the bike is perfectly crafted. And now, the build process begins, and it all starts with a truckload of tubing.
We get raw tubing, comes in on a truck every week. Starts off in the parts department where it gets cut, bent, coped, whatever it needs to make the various parts of a swing arm or a frame. And then it goes to the actual fabricators where they make the frames, the swing arms, using those parts.
Over here is where we actually assemble the frame. So the guys that were over here making all the tubing drop it into these bins here, and they just put it right in a frame fixture and assemble a frame. Right in this area here is where we actually manufacture, assemble and weld all the swing arms together.
Swing arms connect the wheel to the rear suspension.
That's all he does is build swing arms. Around here is where we make all the oil tanks. Every oil tank's made right here.
Handcrafted.
Yeah, they're basically handcrafted, but the parts for the oil tanks are laser cut. And he has a little system here, and he bends the metal here to the right angles. Makes all his own little tubes that go inside the oil tanks. But we've got the system. Mark's got the system down so well that he can build 6 oil tanks a day, no problem. So this is where we built all the fuel tanks, and they're pressure tested around the corner here. We pressure test all of the fuel tanks, and the oil tanks are pressure tested right here, every single one of them. This is a fuel tank. You can see the complexity in the shaping of this. We spent $100,000 on the tooling for this fuel tank, and we can build it in 40 minutes.
Crafting parts is a continuous process, and so is frame assembly, where all the elements are pieced together and welded, creating the backbone of one bad bike.
We bolt everything down, and away you go. You put it in here and you start welding it up.
Once the bikes are welded together, they head down the road where they get chromed and power painted. Custom paint jobs are one major element that makes these bikes so sensational. They bring on top-notch artists who can bring to life, well, whatever your imagination can dream up. When they come back from the paint shop, they're ready to hit the final assembly line.
At this stage of the game here, this is assembly only. We're not doing any modifications, we're not grinding anything, we're not making anything, we are just assembling the vehicles. Station 1, they fill out all the paperwork and check the sales order number to see what's required on the vehicle. And they'll install the engine, transmission, primary, and a few other little various things like the oil tank and some shocks. Then it's ready to go to Station 2. Here we are at Station 2, and he's putting on the front end, the front wheel, and the forward controls.
Each station comes with a substation, making sure all the elements are ready as the bikes ride down the line. And moving down the line.
And then we get to Station 3, and Station 3 is a one-man operation because he's doing the wiring system, and he lays the harness on and connects all the plugs. So the harness is already built, ready to go on the vehicle. Okay. Then we get into Substation 4. Sub 4 preps the swing arms and the rear fenders and puts the bearings in, okay, for Station 4. So he's doing the sub work for Station 4. Station 4 is over here, and Station 4 assembles the whole rear end of the vehicle, such as the wheel, the swing arm, and rear fender, puts on the exhaust system and the final touches.
Big Bear choppers are held to a standard of excellence unmatched by most custom shops. Every station checks the work of the previous station and signs off on their work. Then they sign off on their own part of the process before the bike moves down the line, where it waits another signature of approval. Station 6 is one of the last checkpoints for quality control before the bike rolls onto the dyno tester. What's a dyno tester?
What it does is it simulates riding it on the street. So we lock the front wheel in, and the back wheel goes on a big drum down there in the dyno tester, and you ride the vehicle at 60, 70, 80, 100 miles, whatever. We roll it at 80 miles an hour. Rolls along at 80 miles an hour for 30 miles, and that's to bring the engine up to operating temperature, check for any leaks, anything that may have gone wrong in the assembly. And then they bring the vehicle back out and then re-inspect the whole vehicle and torque hundreds of things. I mean, they literally torque just about every nut and bolt on the vehicle to make sure everything's dead right. So that's how the vehicle's assembled.
And there you have it, a Big Bear chopper ready to hit the road.
Well, now that we've seen how these beauties are built, I'm ready to hit the highway. I guess I don't really have a motorcycle license, though.
When we return, we'll meet up with some of Big Bear's biggest fans at their annual party. We're riding the mountain when Behind the Name continues. Behind the Name is on a tour of Big Bear Choppers, the custom shop in the California mountains that's cranking out bike after bike, becoming a major shop in the world of motorcycles. And when you see the showroom, it leaves no wonder why their success is soaring.
Just looking at them, you can figure that out. They're awesome. They're, I always say, you know, they're like Harleys on steroids.
I don't think you'll find another bike that can match the style and the look of a Big Bear chopper.
The motorcycles, they speak for themselves. They're show-stopping custom motorcycles.
We want to make sure we exceed our customers' expectations. We want to give them a bike that people think costs 60 grand for 30 grand.
These bikes have quite the following. So much so that their annual event has become a yearly stop for many motorcycle men and their mamas. Ride the Mountain gathers bikers from all around who come to see the new debuts and, of course, take a cruise through the Southern California mountains.
This is the best riding, mountain, bike riding in California. I mean, in Southern California, it's amazing. So to have a venue up here on the mountain in the middle of the summer is just, it's a no-brainer. We just wanted to bring in vendors, bring in bike builders, introduce them to our town, bring in the customers. A lot of our customers haven't seen the facility, haven't seen the factory. So for them to come up, they've had their bikes shipped to them, so they were never able to actually walk in here and buy a motorcycle. So they fly in, they bring their bikes in, we give them tours of the company, and they're like, wow, this is, where my bike came from. So it's just kind of like a coming home, big coming home party.
There's live music, vendors, everybody from down in LA that doesn't get to ride up here in the mountains. They all ride up, get to come up, have a nice ride through the mountains.
This is our 6th annual Ride the Mountain event. We started doing the show as just a thank you party for our customers to have their bikes judged against each other. Everybody was customizing their own bikes. Everybody's excited about it. They want to show up their motorcycles. So we brought them in and just had a party and turned it into a 2nd-year event, 3rd-year event, and it just started growing and growing. We started from just getting a 40-foot trailer, going out to bike shows. He and I were out there setting up the tents and just going to any show that was going on locally to show the product, to put ourselves out there. And we did that for the first 4 years. I mean, it was just he and I out there at the shows talking to people. And I think that's what people liked from the beginning.
They made it work. They proved Big Bear Choppers was here to stay, and they paid their tributes along the way.
Kevin and Mona actually dedicated this build to my now deceased daughter. And this is her, this is Athena. And, she's forever in my heart. And this is a living memorial to her. We built this for Biker Build Off in the beginning of '06. And at that same time is when Athena was in an accident. Kevin had, Kevin and Mona had wanted to build this bike in a memorial to Athena, which they did, and it took them 10 days. They give them 10 days to build the bike, and I picked the cross and the Bible scripture, and Seth over at Aggressive Design put the portrait and the whole paint job, and we did it all in 10 days. Kevin rode the bike from from New Orleans to Daytona back in March of '06. And the public gave them all day to vote, and we won. Just wish she was here to see it, and who knows how God works. Maybe she does see it,
It's been a rough ride for Big Bear Choppers, but they've risen to the challenge, branding themselves as major players in the world of motorcycles.
After all this is said and done, I'm going to write a book. We've never wanted to quit. We've never wanted to throw in the towel. And part of that is because I have awesome people working here. And when I think about them, I think about their families. And we know, 2 of our first people, Mike Espiotis, the Greek, and Andy Metters, they've been with us since, literally almost since day 1.
I don't think that it can be beat. I mean, we're it.
We're here for the long run. We want to see what happens.
We're taking over. We want it all.